Hey guys, Justin here. Wanted to talk about the third party financing addendum. Especially in this current market, there's been some, I don't think some of our agents, or not specifically ours, I'm trying to make sure our people know what to do with it. But this new introduction of this appraisal waiver form, I think there's some misunderstandings of how it affects the contracts. And wanted to talk to you about it and highlight what this means to you guys. So let me pull the document up real quick, and we can kind of rifle through some of these pieces. So the third party financing addendum. Third party financing addendum is a buyer protection addendum. That's at the root. That's what it does. If you're getting financing, you're supposed to be using this if you want the third-party financing protections. And so this document is used in residential, even in commercial too. And let's just kind of jump through, and we can talk to you about it. The main paragraph is, this is just kind of a descriptive paragraph, but it is kind of important. You want to make sure this is pretty accurate and check off the type of financing. So, if you're the most common being conventional financing or an FHA or VA. Sometimes, you'll see somebody do the Texas Veterans Loan. Occasionally, I'll see a USDA. This one, I don't think I've ever seen. That's like, I don't even know what that one's about. That's probably, I've seen those like reverse mortgages. They always seem like ripoffs they try to sell retirees on. It don't make sense to me, but that's neither here nor there. So this, you're describing, you check off only, let's say you're using conventional financing and you're only getting the first mortgage. Let's say you're doing a $200,000 loan or something like that. Yada yada yada. Fill out the pieces and then you move on. Now, the piece that protects the buyer is really this paragraph 2 specifically. And there's two components. So paragraph 2A is buyer approval. So this is buyer approval being like the buyer's credit qualifications. I'll jump real quick to paragraph B, which is property approval, which is slightly different. And I will tell you what they are in a second. So let's go into buyer approval real quick. This contract is subject to a buyer obtaining buyer approval. So getting approved for a loan. If a buyer cannot obtain approval, the buyer may give written notice within X number of days after the effective date of this contract, and this contract will terminate and the earnest money is refunded to the buyer. Basically saying, if you can't get approved within the time period, you can let the other party know and get your earnest money back. So that's a very powerful paragraph, and one of the main reasons why you get this addendum signed. Now let's continue real quick. So if the buyer does not terminate the contract under this provision, contract shall no longer be subject to that clause. Now this is very specific. So buyer obtaining buyer approval. So that's a paragraph. So when I talk to my agents, that's when I say this is a paragraph 2A situation versus a 2B situation, I'll if it deals with the buyer's credit, it's a 2A situation. You got a timeline to handle that stuff. If it's a 2B situation, which I'm going to jump to in a second, you got pretty much all the way till the 3 days before closing to exercise that paragraph. But let's keep going. Buyer approval will be deemed to have been attained if the terms of the loan described are available and the lender determines that the buyer has satisfied all lender requirements related to the buyer's assets, income, and credit history. Okay. Makes sense. Now, sometimes, people check off this one. This is if you're trying to be, and honestly in this market, people are trying to be competitive, they check off that second paragraph. So that means you don't get really any buyer credit protections if you fail to get approved by a loan based on your credit requirements. Now, sometimes, you'll find yourself in a situation where the house or the property fails the lender's requirements. So, for example, let's say the house is unlivable, like there's a giant hole in the roof. They're not gonna. It's like one of the main, like it's got to be a livable property for a lot of lenders to be willing to lend on it, especially on these like generic loans. So let's go ahead and read this property approval. So if buyer's lender determines that the property does not satisfy lender's underwriting requirements for the loan, including but not limited to the most common being the appraisal, insurability, and lender's required repairs, buyer, no later than 3 days before closing, may terminate this contract by giving the seller a notice of termination, a copy of the written statement from the lender setting forth the reasons for lender's termination, or either or, one of those two things. If the buyer terminates under this paragraph, the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. If buyer does not terminate under this paragraph, property approval is deemed to have been obtained. So, in all honesty, the most common one that people use paragraph 2B is the appraisal. Okay, this is specifically the paragraph. They can still terminate for other reasons, like I was mentioning, like there's like a hole in the roof, or if like the house is condemned and they're trying to. This is a residential purchase and not some kind of hard money deal. There's an addendum called the addendum concerning right to terminate due to the lender's appraisal. They're in this market. They'll nullify that component of paragraph 2B. So if you're a listing agent and you're doing an appraisal waiver and they do a full appraisal waiver, you still want to get a proof of funds, because let's say you're going $100,000 over the appraisal. If you're an awesome, that is a legit thing that's happening. We're going $100,000 over the market, or over what the appraisal is going to say the market value is. And if you don't check, they don't have the cash, they can still sneak out. The buyers can still sneak out of the contract based on paragraph 2A. So this goes into what I was telling you. So like the appraisal is a 2B situation, but if they literally don't have the cash to close now, if it appraised at an unsuspected number, now all of a sudden the situation becomes a paragraph 2A situation, and buyers can back out of the contract and get their earnest money back. You got no leverage. I still, to this date, so we're 6 months into these new contracts, I still see agents and pretty, at big firms, and they seem to be doing a lot of contracts, they're still not using this document correctly. Yeah, I guess just out of sheer personality, they're just kind of pushing things through, and everyone's just assuming they work that way, but they haven't been tested yet. So, and if they catch themselves in those situations, they can actually prevent a lot of headache. So, anyways, this is that's the main paragraph. Honestly, the rest of it, like this, is kind of this is specifically for FHA and VA. If you're gonna go off an appraisal amount other than the purchase price, you can kind of vary this. And this is just release documents. But honestly, paragraph 2 is the main reason why you use this document. You just want to make sure you guys set it up correctly. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.